Hmm. Is that gonna work? I think that's gonna work. I'm trying to figure out a new lighting situation, so. Oh, it's on autofocus. I didn't know that. Today's video is actually going to be the most like traditional YouTube video I think I've ever done. It's not like a vlog or you following me around or doing something. It's actually me making a video with a purpose of accomplishing one goal and showing it to you. And as by the title, because you're already here watching this, you know what it is. I get requests all the time to do a video on how I edit my photos for my social media. So this video, and I want to preface this now, this is not about how I take my photos, this isn't about the gear I use, this is about when I have the photo, I upload it into my computer, I edit it, and then I post it on my phone. That's it. That's all it's trying to accomplish. If you guys like this video and you want me to, you're gonna have to actually say down below or somewhere on some social media that you'd like a video of me talking about how I take my photos, and then maybe I go out and do that and what equipment I use and that stuff. But this is gonna be me editing 3 different photos and different things about them. I picked 3 semi-different photos, and yeah, we're just gonna get right into it. So this first photo, this is directly out of the camera, and always the first thing I do is I change the aspect ratio, crop it a little bit. I'm gonna change it to 8.5 by 11. I'm gonna make sure that the horizon line is straight because it bothers me when it's not. And I'm just gonna generally move it around until I get what I want for what I post on my Instagram. And because I am the focus of this photo sitting on the hood of the car, I want it to just be more cropped in. No one really cares about a little extra fluff on the outside. The next thing is I'm gonna try to even the exposures because there's a bunch of shadows, there's a bunch of sunset tones. Just give me an even playing field to work with. So I'm gonna take, the highlights and the shadows, kind of even them out. I can always fiddle with them a little bit later. And I'm gonna add the clarity up to about 20-ish sometimes because it just adds a little natural contrast. Underneath the car, it's really blown out, it's really overexposed, and that's just from the sunset, but it's distracting. So I kind of paint over it, take the exposure down, and what that'll do is it'll make your eye naturally float up towards the subject. And that's generally what you want when, you're sitting on the hood of a car and no one cares about the gravel underneath it. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna focus on the sky. So I'm gonna go down to my color section and I'm gonna select my blue and I'm gonna just play with the luminance. I want it a more rich blue, more of what it actually was because it was a little blown out from my camera settings. And I'm just gonna drop the luminance and make it a nice sky. Now I have a sunset directly hitting my face in this photo and I basically just look like an Oompa Loompa. So what I'm gonna do with the orange is I'm gonna drop the shadow just a little bit. I'm gonna make it so that I don't look like I work at the Wonka factory. But the thing is, this is affecting all the orange on the screen. So to kind of give some of that sunset tone back, I then paint over the windscreen in the front of the car and I add the temperature slider up to some warm section so it still looks like I'm sitting in front of a sunset. I then try and add some to my jacket just to see how it would look. And then I decide that it's actually horrendous, which, is pretty common. So I delete all of that and just, we're not gonna. But that's what you gotta do. It's about just figuring it out. I'm now just scanning the sky to see if there's any dust particles and I'm just gonna remove some stuff. And I actually see a blemish on my cheek. It's small. No one would be able to see it on an iPhone, especially from that distance, but it bothers me. So I take it away because I can, and I like that. So this is where we are. I'm doing kind of a test of where we were, where we are now, and what I like. Now, what I'm looking at is there anything out of proportion? Is there anything that's overexposed? And I noticed that the Jeep could actually be darker. I think it just make it pop a little bit more by brushing over it and taking the exposure down a little bit so that it's not so in your face and washed out. While doing that, I realized that my feet look like they were just dipped in a pot of cheese for some reason because I was bringing the temperature up. So I just paint over them and I drop the saturation a little bit to make it look like I actually have a normal skin tone in this photo. And that's really it, honestly. The next photo is me and it's completely edited and I'm just gonna show you what I do to my face whenever I'm editing a photo.
And usually, first things first, is I'm going to just remove the blemishes from my skin. Even birthmarks, just any inconsistency to give it a pretty fleshed out feeling. I'm not going to airbrush my skin. I'm just going to take those little marks and move them. I didn't shave. And I didn't shave on purpose because I wanted to show you guys what I do when I'm lazy. I could have shaved and I wouldn't have to do what I'm doing right now, which is literally removing my mustache because it looks horrendous because I can't grow facial hair. But I didn't shave so that I could show you this. So I'm just kind of layering a bunch of little removal spots on top of each other. Obviously, this is a sloppy job. It's gonna look fine on any type of device, mobile device on social media. But if this was a professional job, if I was being paid for it, I would take it a little more seriously. It's still gonna be fine, as you'll see in 2 seconds, but I could have just shaved. So it looks fine. I do notice a birthmark on the right side of my cheek that's bothering me though, so I zoom in and just take that out right now. And the final thing is my eyes. With the edit, I added some shadow to my eyes, so I'm just bringing it back by adding a little bit of exposure and a little bit of the blue back, and that's really all I do. Oh, I also take some bags under my eyes just a little bit out because I have a problem. But yeah, my eyes, my skin, and that's kind of it. That's what I do to my face. The last photo is of my girlfriend on the beach in Florida from 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now what's funny about this is that the sun is actually behind her, so her entire body is cast in shadow, which makes it a little difficult. But as always, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the crop and I'm going to just even the horizon. After that, I'm going to play with the temperature slider and just add the warmth so it actually looks like she's sitting in the sun a little bit. And I can always fiddle with that later, so I'm just going to get a general of what I want. I'm going to remove some of the shadows, basically just play around with it, add some clarity, some natural contrast. And now her skin is a little red because she's just sunburned. So I'm going to go down to my colors. I'm going to take the red hue and I'm going to add a little orange and drop the saturation a little bit so it just looks more of an even, consistent skin tone. While I'm there, I'm going to play with the actual sky, make it a little more rich blue to make the sand and her skin tone pop. Then I'm going to play with the shadows, drop them a little bit so that it has some contrast. I notice the highlights look a little blown out, so I just want to fiddle with that, see what happens. And because she's entirely covered in shadow, there's some parts that look kind of gray and almost lifeless. So I paint over them a little bit and just add the temperature slider so that there's warmth, because she actually was just being bathed in sun. It's just in the camera, it can't really, show you that. I then take out 2 birds because they were bothering me. I don't know why. It's a weird thing. I'm not going to take out the Starbucks cup or the flip-flops just because that'd be too much work for an Instagram photo, but I really did think about it. The next thing is I'm basically just going to take a brush over her entire body and I'm going to add a little warmth to it. I'm going to even the skin tone. I can be a good boyfriend and make her a little more tan, or I could, make her pale as, what is pale? Paper. Let's just go with paper. That's good. I do give her a little bit of a artificial tan there. I fix the crop, and I think that's all I do on this photo, if I'm remembering. No, her hand, it's shadowy and it's a focus point because it's holding the Coca-Cola bottle. So I paint over it and add some warmth to it so that her hand doesn't look like a lifeless corpse, essentially. Which, again, is not her fault. It's just the camera settings because it can't capture everything. And these are, the before and afters of what it is. I'm scanning to make sure there's something I want to change or not. And all I really did is play with the temperature tones and fix the contrast on it, and that's it. It's not the craziest photo editing story or way to do it, but that is me answering the question of how I edit my photos. So if you do, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you do like this or you want something similar to this about how I take my photos and the whole process, my equipment, lenses, what I use for each photo, that type of thing, that's a totally different story. If you want that, let me know and maybe we will go and do something like that. But I hope you enjoyed it. That's really, I've never done like a traditional YouTube video, so I'm curious as to how this is gonna play out. I wonder if you guys will like this or not, but watch me get like 2 views. One of them being my mother, the other my dog. Well, that's depressing to think about, so I'm gonna go now.
because I'm going to dinner with my mother and my brother. So I'm gonna go eat some Japanese food. And yeah, I will talk to you guys later.